All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you a quick story about my dad so that you can reference this as a point of inspiration. I do all the time. He never lets me not hear about his story. So I'm going to share it with y'all, and hopefully, y'all can glean some lessons, some inspiration, some motivation, and some guidance from his story. So, as you guys know, I'm Nigerian. My father's Nigerian. He grew up in Nigeria, in Igbo land. He grew up in a village. And by the way, these are his words. Okay. He grew up in a village. They didn't have consistent running water. They don't have paved roads. They didn't have a car. He had to work on a farm. He was one of several children. He wasn't able to go to school because his father didn't have enough money to send him to school. So his siblings were able to go to school. So as my dad was at the crib doing farm work, his brothers and sisters were out getting an education. Until it was finally time for him to get his education, he went to school, and he was much older than his peers. So imagine here in America, imagine you going to school, imagine getting held back 3 times. you you 16 years old in the 7th grade, 8th grade, right? That's going to be embarrassing because it's going to appear like you're dumber than everybody else, but really your family just didn't have money. So that's the scenario that my father grew up in. And from those early lessons, being the oldest person in his classes, it taught him to not care, right? In this life, you need to have courage to not care about what people think. He's like, you know what? I started school late, but I got to get this education. I got to get up out of here. Mind you, they're living in the village. They're living in poverty. In his words, he had to walk to school with no shoes. That's what he said. I'm going to believe him, right? I've been to the village, the house that he lived in. I saw the house. I'm 6'1". I'm going to be honest. I was taller than that house. Okay. So I saw the environment that he grew up in. I did see the lack of electricity. The houses run on generators. In the village that he lives in, not regular electricity. So as you know, a generator here in America is used as a backup plan, right? When your electricity goes out, then you turn your generator on. In Nigeria, in that part of the place he was living, the generator was plan A, okay? And then you had to go to the river to get water to take showers. So in order to take a shower, the shower doesn't come down from a hose or a faucet up top. You literally get a bucket of water. You go to the river, you get a bucket of water, and you take a small bowl and you scoop the water out of the bucket and pour it on your body. And that's how you take a shower. And on top of that, there weren't always functioning bathrooms. Okay. If you had to take a number 2, they dug a hole in the ground and you took that number 2 in that hole in the ground. That is a real thing. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I had to do it myself. So experiencing some of these things myself and then hearing what he said was like, wow, okay, you grew up in the trenches. Now, I grew up in Detroit, and a lot of people would consider parts of Detroit the trenches. A lot of people would consider parts of America the ghetto, the trenches, and things like that. My father had a different perspective when he came over here. When he came over here, everywhere was luxury because his perspective was different. In America, he used to say, he's like, when I first got to America, I was shocked that you can get food at any time of the day. In Nigeria, if you didn't go to the market out into the city and get food during the day, you didn't eat that day. But in America, there's 24-hour spots. You can get food at any point at night and any point during the day. So to him, America, and to a lot of people that come from Nigeria, America is pure luxury. So even though we grew up in Detroit in what would be considered a ghetto, he didn't view it that way. He viewed it as, wow, I made it out and I'm living in a paradise. So let's go back a little bit to before he moved to Detroit. So after he finished school, he got a job as a banker in Nigeria. So as he was working as a banker, he became close with one of his wealthy clients. oddly enough, one of the wealthiest men in Nigeria, he was a banker for. And this individual, this wealthy individual, could not read. Imagine that. Couldn't read. So he and my dad formed a bond because my dad used to read his bank statements. He used to read the information over. My dad used to read his information to him. And because my dad never crossed him, this wealthy individual sponsored my dad's trip and visa to America. So this is where the rags to riches story begins. Now my dad has an opportunity to go to America, to get an education, go to college, and make a real life and escape from the poverty that he grew up in. So he goes to America. He goes to college in Alabama. Mind you, this is in the 70s, 80s, Alabama, down south, for African, this was a different time period. You know what I mean? So as he's getting his education, his brother dies. His brother is killed. His brother was rooming with him, and unfortunately, he died over a woman. So this is why I tell a lot of y'all to not prioritize women. Women are great. They're amazing. But when you start dating frivolously and you're chasing women and you are lusting after women, and then you choose the wrong one, it can ruin your life. When you are aligned with your mission, when you're aligned with your goals, when you are aligned with your higher purpose, you will find the right type of woman, the wife material woman that you're looking for, right? So his brother dies. Now, obviously, my dad is hurt by the tragic passing of his brother, but he has to lock in. He's in America. He no longer has a safety net or a safety blanket because his brother was his roommate. Now it's all on him. So he goes to school, gets a job, ends up getting a job in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, in the auto industry as an accountant. At this time, Detroit was an economy that had a lot of opportunities. So he went there, he got a job, he built himself up, started a couple businesses, failed at a couple businesses, and I'm jumping around. But when he got to Detroit, he was able to bring my mother over. So my mother was also living in Nigeria. She was not in the poverty-stricken area he was in. So my mother grew up in a different reality. She grew up with maids. She grew up with, her father was a successful businessman and an engineer. She grew up with wealth, and she grew up with love and self-belief. And she also, so when she came over here, she also became an engineer herself. And then their union formed. They had children. People like myself were born, and my three other siblings. And that's how it began. So I was a part of some of the early moments living in Detroit, seeing my dad work as an accountant, my mom as an engineer. My dad tried several businesses. He tried an ice cream business, like an ice cream, those ice cream trucks that roll around. He had an ice cream truck. That didn't work out. He tried the shoe selling business. That didn't work out. He tried a whole host of things while working as an accountant. He knew at the end of the day, he was going to be an entrepreneur. He was going to be a businessman. Eventually, he opens up an adult foster care group home, which we have 3 homes now. And that is the business that took him from where he was to where he is now, as he is now a multimillionaire. So, long story short, if my dad can come from the village of Nigeria, English as his second language, come over here with nothing, overcome the trials and tribulations of the death of his brother and a whole host of other obstacles, and make it as a millionaire, there's really no excuse for you or for me as well. He always tells me that. He's like, bro, you have way more of a head start on life than I did. You need to triple my income. You need to be 10 times the individual I was, period. And I take that to heart. Now, am I there yet? Doesn't matter. I'm going to be there. In my mind, I'm there. I will get there. And the inspiration is for you also. What did he do that allowed him to get to this point? He focused. He was locked in on the bigger picture. Okay. He knew he was going to be rich. He knew he was going to be a millionaire. He said it every day. And he cut out any distraction that was going to hinder him from achieving that goal, because the pain that he was going through was so great that he had to get rich. See, a lot of y'all aren't rich because you aren't in painful enough situations. When the pain gets so great that you look in the mirror and be like, okay, I have to change my life, that's when you will make that change. And listen, I'm not advocating for a lot of pain, but pain, unfortunately, is what pushes humans to grow. You either sink or swim. So that's my dad's story. I just wanted to share that with y'all so you guys kind of get some perspective on where my mindset gets shaped from. And hopefully you can glean some lessons, some inspiration, and some motivation from his story as well. Appreciate y'all, man. Good luck out